You wake on a Tuesday to the rumble of concrete trucks and the smell of fresh cement. The stone bridge that's been the Kellerman's only route to the outside world, built when Marcus's grandfather helped develop the road, now sits sealed with massive concrete barriers. Emergency vehicles only signs block the way. Marcus Kellerman's 60-year family farm, the 15-acre heart of his family's life, is suddenly a prison island. Marcus, 52, runs an organic vegetable operation on rolling hills of heritage apple trees planted by his grandfather in the 1960s. He lives in the family's 1890s farmhouse with his wife, Sarah, a school nurse, their 16-year-old daughter, Emma, a soccer player, and his 78-year-old mother, Dorothy, who needs dialysis 3 times a week. 10 years earlier, a developer bought the surrounding acreage and built Prestige Valley Estates, luxury homes, million-dollar properties, and a new HOA, Millbrook Lane. Marcus's farm became an eyesore to the newcomers overnight. Vivian Ashworth arrives, 61, immaculate, designer-clad, and soon HOA president. She brings with her a corporate ruthlessness and a personal vendetta against anything that doesn't fit her aesthetic. Complaints begin small, letters about odor and noise, but escalate into harassment. Vivian parks at the bridge, times Marcus's routines, photographs delivery trucks, and hires an aggressive law firm, Blackstone and Associates, to threaten his access rights. Marcus offers to pay his share of legitimate road maintenance. Vivian sneers that this is about what's best for the community. It becomes clear she means what's best for property values, to the exclusion of the Kellermans. The blockade is surgical. Dorothy misses dialysis. Emma is late to school and gets detention. Emergency vehicles can't reach the property. The HOA claims emergency repairs. Marcus's security cameras and long record of use tell another story. The original 1962 easement is murky, but Marcus knows his family has driven the road for 6 decades, continuous use that should count. He spends days in the county records office and finds the easement granting perpetual vehicular access for residential and agricultural purposes. Maintenance costs are to be shared proportionally. That discovery is the first spark of hope. Vivian's tactics shift to legal and bureaucratic weaponry. A 14-page demand from the HOA gives Marcus 21 days to remedy alleged violations under threat of access termination. Essentially, sell or be locked in. Anonymous flyers smear Marcus's compost operation as toxic waste. Security cameras and floodlights are installed to surveil his gate. Neighbors are coaxed into filing complaints. County inspectors show up en masse, fire, building, environmental, after Vivian files coordinated complaints. The strategy is to drown Marcus in fines, delays, and administrative burden until he runs out of options. But Marcus has advantages Vivian underestimates. He's been recording conversations, photographing harassment, and saving timestamps of every incident. He hires Janet Reeves, a grizzled property rights attorney who immediately files a quiet title action and demands a full audit of the HOA's inflated $180,000 road budget. Forensic accountant Tom Patel discovers an alarming pattern. The HOA bills roadwork twice, charging members and billing the developer's construction budget, pocketing tens of thousands. Valley Infrastructure, the HOA's preferred contractor, appears to be a subsidiary of Prestige Valley Estates. Contracts are inflated, invoices duplicated. What looked like petty local sniping begins to reveal a money trail. Visceral intimidation follows. Marcus's tires are slashed in a school lot. A white Tesla, Vivian's car, is captured nearby. Jake Henderson, a reluctant neighbor, records Vivian in a private strategy meeting admitting to a plan to force Marcus to sell at 40% below market price, naming a developer contact who'd buy the tract. Anonymous videos and posts begin to spread. Then something worse. Someone sprays industrial herbicide along Marcus's property line, killing his prize heritage apple trees, 13 and 14-year varieties that are living family history. The photograph of dead branches and crushed trunks becomes viral local fodder and a moral line crossed. The community's organized harassment has moved into environmental vandalism. The stakes enlarge. Vivian calls Marcus's restaurant clients and spreads false food safety claims. 3 contracts are canceled, slashing their income by 70%. Insurance policies are mysteriously put under high-risk review. Vivian sits on a board connected to Marcus's insurer. County inspectors demand $25,000 in emergency access improvements, threatening fines. Licensing boards and ethics complaints mount. Sarah, sleepless but relentless, digs through public records and finds social ties, dinners, parties, and charity events, linking Vivian to county officials who suddenly care about the Kellerman farm. The pattern of influence looks like selective enforcement. Then the breakthrough. Mrs. Mila, a retired teacher and HOA member who's had doubts, secretly records a strategy session in which Vivian and board members discuss Phase 2 pressure tactics and even distributing cash to board members. Proof of conspiracy. Marcus's team compounds this with bank records showing $400,000 in wire transfers from Prestige Valley to Vivian's consulting company, each payment coinciding with escalation episodes. Forensic evidence from the construction site ties the debris dumped on Marcus's fields to Prestige Valley's trucks. Environmental testing confirms matching chemical signatures. The web of fraud, money laundering, and coordinated harassment suddenly points beyond petty HOA disputes into federal crimes. Janet uncovers a hidden clause in the original 1962 road contract. If maintenance costs exceed 300% of original estimates, responsibility reverts to the county. The HOA has been spending far more than the threshold, $180,000 on maintenance where inflation-adjusted estimates would have been a fraction of that. Tom's accounting shows invoices inflated 400% above market rates and money routed back to Prestige Valley through shell companies. The county's exposure, the public health threats to a disabled resident denied access, and wire transfers crossing state lines bring in federal jurisdiction. The FBI, IRS Criminal Division, and bank fraud investigators quietly begin building cases. Rather than break, the Kellermans go offensive. Marcus presents environmental attorneys with proof his farm supports protected species and that Prestige Valley's planned expansion would require a full federal environmental review, an 18-month process that could bankrupt the developer and halt construction. That would change the calculus for banks and the developer overnight. Marcus's records, trail cam footage, audio recordings of conspiratorial meetings, and subpoenaed bank statements form a legal bomb that could reach Vivian, her enablers, and the developer. As federal probes expand, Vivian's world collapses. Her lawyers withdraw. Her professional boards investigate ethics violations. Insurance and social standing evaporate. Board members who took cash scramble. Retaliations against Marcus's allies, vandalism, smear campaigns, continue. But the tide has turned. The town hall that had been her empire becomes the place where her lies unravel. Charges of fraud, wire transfers, and corruption mount. The evidence points to a conspiracy not only to coerce a sale, but to manipulate public bodies, launder money, and commit environmental wrongdoing. Still, victory carries moral weight. Marcus recognizes the destructive power in his own hands. He can choose total annihilation of his enemies, bankrupt businesses, ruin reputations, press criminal charges, or a narrow, principled victory that protects families like his without becoming what he fights. The pressure on the Kellerman household eases as momentum shifts. Dorothy's health stabilizes, Emma regains confidence, and Sarah's resolve returns. But the family's quiet reckoning is a reminder that legal triumphs can be Pyrrhic if they consume the victor. In the end, the Kellerman's fight becomes more than one family's survival. It's a test case about rural property rights and corporate overreach, community power, and the ease with which local governance can be corrupted. Marcus's battle, rooted in dusty county records, camera timestamps, forensic accounting, and neighbor courage, transforms a desperate farmhouse siege into a story about accountability. The barricades came down not because one man fought alone, but because persistence, evidence, and the willingness to escalate truth to the authorities turned intimidation into indictments. What began with concrete and fear becomes, through patience and proof, a roadmap for other families facing similar tactics. Document everything, find a seasoned lawyer, follow the money, and use the law's broad tools. Environmental statutes, federal corruption and wire fraud statutes, civil rights protections, to stop a coordinated campaign of theft and terror. Marcus's final choice, to pursue justice without becoming the monster Vivian tried to make him, frames the real victory, reclaiming not only land and access but the family's moral center. The strategy was surgical. A 72-hour legal blitzkrieg designed to crush Vivian Ashworth's defenses before she could react. Janet Reeves spread county maps across the farmhouse table, red ink circling political pressure points like a general planning D-Day. 4 simultaneous fronts, she explained: county liability, federal civil rights, criminal conspiracy, and environmental destruction. When it hits, they won't know what hit them. Marcus Kellerman's once quiet organic farm had become a battleground after Vivian. The ruthless HOA president of Prestige Valley Estates blocked the bridge his family had used for 60 years. Her campaign of harassment, fines, lies, vandalism was meant to drive him out and hand the land to developers. But now Marcus was done playing defense. The legal arsenal was devastating. Emergency motions to reopen the bridge under a forgotten 1962 clause, a federal civil rights complaint for denying Dorothy's medical access, and criminal referrals outlining corruption, bribery, and environmental destruction. Janet's filings were timed to unleash a paperwork storm that would bury Vivian's lawyers before noon. Marcus had learned a hard truth. Fighting corruption wasn't about idealism but about understanding power, political favors, regulatory capture, and money trails. But federal law, once engaged, burned through corruption like wildfire through dry grass. Tom Patel's forensic analysis revealed staggering fraud: $400,000 in fake HOA fees, $200,000 in bribes to Vivian, laundered through shell contractors tied directly to Prestige Valley's board. The trail screamed RICO. At midnight, Emma found her father studying documents spread across the kitchen. "Dad, are we really going to win?" she whispered. He hugged her gently. "We're going to do more than win, sweetheart. We're going to make sure this never happens again." Sarah, meanwhile, coordinated with investigative journalists covering rural property corruption. The story would go national, ensuring political pressure and preventing quiet settlements. Mrs. Ma, a dissenting HOA member, had expanded her covert network. 6 insiders now secretly recorded Vivian's unhinged outbursts, threats, and racist tirades. Every word was evidence. The nuclear option was environmental. Federal injunctions could freeze construction loans overnight if Vivian's developers were tied to ecological damage. Marcus's orchard supported endangered bird species. Proof of habitat destruction would bankrupt Prestige Valley. Dorothy wheeled into the kitchen, her dialysis machine humming. "Your grandfather built that bridge for neighbors," she told Marcus softly. "He'd want you to protect it." By dawn, political shockwaves had spread statewide. County commissioners, fearing re-election backlash, distanced themselves from Prestige Valley. Federal representatives voiced support for rural preservation. The town hall would be the climax, Marcus explaining, in plain words, how corruption had hijacked his community. Support exploded. Save Kellerman Farm had 5,000 members across 3 states. Newspapers planned coordinated coverage. Advocacy groups arrived from Montana to Georgia. Sarah discovered multiple federal violations: wire fraud, mail fraud, and conspiracy under Section 1983, crimes carrying decades, not months, in prison. The attack timeline was military precise. Filings at 9 a.m., media at 2 p.m., town hall at 7 p.m. The night before, Marcus stood on his porch, inhaling air still tainted by poisoned apple trees. Tomorrow would bring either triumph or ruin, but he knew they'd already won the only thing that mattered. His family was still together. Then came Vivian's fatal mistake. At 2 a.m., Mrs. Ma whispered through the phone, "She's on your property." Security cameras captured Vivian in dark clothes, bolt cutters in hand, sabotaging Marcus's irrigation system, an act that tampered with federally monitored agricultural equipment. A felony, FBI jurisdiction triggered automatically. At dawn, she made it worse. In panic, Vivian called the sheriff, fabricating claims that Marcus had made terroristic threats, but he'd been at a diner with 60 witnesses, including the deputy's own daughter. His phone and receipts proved it. Worse for her, she'd bribed a teen to make fake calls. Witness tampering and conspiracy stacked new federal charges on top. By morning, Marcus's blitzkrieg hit. Janet filed motions in 3 courts simultaneously. Reporters swarmed. County officials, terrified of liability for denying medical access, ordered immediate demolition of Vivian's concrete barriers. News cameras captured crews smashing the walls. Freedom returned in a shower of dust and justice. Vivian's collapse accelerated. Her tennis club expelled her. Professional boards filed ethics complaints. Her bank accounts were frozen as Tom Patel's evidence confirmed $400,000 in fraud and tax evasion. State prosecutors filed charges within hours. Federal environmental investigators then dropped the hammer. Marcus's Heritage Apple Orchard was verified as endangered species habitat. All Prestige Valley development was suspended indefinitely, freezing $8 million in loans and forcing bankruptcy proceedings by nightfall. But the battle wasn't over. Anonymous complaints suddenly targeted Marcus's organic certification, accusing him of falsifying tests, language identical to Vivian's old letters. Sarah traced it back to new puppet strings. The true architect emerged, Brad Morrison, a Prestige Valley executive and Vivian's longtime romantic partner. Bank records showed he'd financed her entire campaign, paying her bribes and legal bills, treating the harassment as land acquisition expenses. Morrison was far more dangerous, politically connected, resource-rich, and ruthless. Retaliation began immediately. Allies were targeted. Jake Henderson lost his planning job. Mrs. Miller got legal threats. Tom Patel's firm was audited. Marcus realized they weren't fighting a rogue HOA. They were up against organized crime. Morrison escalated into true villainy. He hired chemists to secretly seed Marcus's soil with banned pesticides, planning to destroy his organic certification. But the FBI, already investigating Morrison for similar crimes in other states, intercepted the plan. Marcus's case was now part of a multi-state racketeering probe involving land theft, bribery, and agricultural sabotage. Then the darkest plot surfaced. Plans to kidnap Emma to force Marcus to sell. The hired kidnappers, luckily, were undercover FBI agents. Morrison's own recorded orders sealed his fate. Federal marshals placed the Kellermans in protective custody as agents coordinated raids across 4 states. Morrison's network had infiltrated political offices, agencies, and construction firms. But Marcus's meticulous documentation had provided the missing link. When the FBI moved, it was surgical. Morrison and 36 others were arrested simultaneously. Millions in documents and assets were seized. The town hall would no longer be Marcus versus Vivian. It would be the stage for a nationwide reckoning. By 6:30 p.m., more than 400 people packed the Riverside Community Center. Outside, hundreds more listened through speakers as CNN and Fox News broadcast live. The air crackled with anticipation. Federal marshals flanked the stage. County commissioners, state legislators, and FBI agents filled the front row. At 7 p.m., Vivian entered under federal escort, ankle monitor flashing, her perfect hair hiding panic. The crowd gasped. Marcus stepped to the podium. 2 years ago, my family woke up to find our bridge blocked by concrete. We thought we were fighting a neighborhood bully, Tonight, you'll see we were fighting organized crime stretching across 6 states. Screens flickered to life. Financial charts, audio recordings, and footage of Morrison's arrest filled the room. FBI agent Martinez stepped forward. Tonight, we announce the largest rural property rights conspiracy ever prosecuted under federal racketeering law. 37 defendants, 214 families, $60 million in stolen property. Applause erupted. Vivian sat trembling as prosecutors played her own voice plotting Emma's kidnapping. Board members resigned on live television. The EPA director then announced permanent federal protection for the Kellerman Orchard as endangered species habitat. Dorothy, frail but fierce, wheeled to the microphone. This is America. Families shouldn't need federal agents to protect them from their neighbors. The crowd roared. Prestige Valley collapsed overnight. Its CEO publicly apologized, withdrew from all rural projects, and created a $20 million restitution fund. Vivian faced 127 federal charges, 40 years in prison. Morrison was sentenced to life under RICO statutes. $200 million in assets were seized. Marcus ended the night simply. We fought for every family who believes the Constitution still protects ordinary people. Tonight, we proved it does. 3 months later, spring sunlight spilled over restored orchards where poison trees once stood. Birds returned. Dorothy's dialysis trips crossed the open bridge she'd feared would never reopen. Vivian was serving year 1 of a 32-year sentence. Morrison would die behind bars. The Kellerman's victory sparked national reform. The Rural Property Protection Act strengthened landowner rights, criminalized HOA harassment, and required federal oversight of disputes involving disabled residents. The DOJ formed rural crime task forces. Banks could no longer tie development loans to coerced land acquisitions. The system that once crushed families like the Kellermans was finally dismantled. With settlement funds, the family founded the Kellerman Agricultural Education Fund, offering scholarships for sustainable farming students nationwide. Sarah managed it from their kitchen table. Emma, now a confident speaker, toured Future Farmers of America chapters, teaching constitutional courage. Her college scholarship essay, Standing Ground, won national awards. Dorothy, her health stabilized, taught Emma seed preservation from trees her late husband had planted 60 years ago. 3 nearby farms joined a cooperative, turning the valley into a model of rural renewal. Tourism blossomed, businesses thrived, and the annual Heritage Farm Festival drew thousands each summer. On their 10th settlement anniversary, Marcus and Sarah renewed their vows beneath the same apple trees once drenched in poison, now thriving under federal protection. Marcus testified before Congress, his words shaping national precedent. His memoir, Standing Ground: How One Family Defeated Corporate Terrorism, became a bestseller, inspiring documentaries and legal reform nationwide. As evening fell, Marcus crossed the rebuilt bridge. The water whispered beneath stones his grandfather had set by hand. No concrete barriers, no diesel noise, just apple blossoms and the steady heartbeat of freedom. They hadn't just won their land back. They'd proven that truth, courage, and persistence could still move the machinery of justice in America.